Hi there, Mark Redgrave from Open Amplify. Earlier this year we had the pleasure of working with some of the best agencies and brands for Super Bowl 46. And over the next couple of minutes I'm going to show you how we used our reactions and SocialView tools to help some of the largest auto advertisers measure their social performance during this critical campaign season. At Open Amplify you'll hear us talk a lot about metrics that matter. The whole point is how do you measure the impact of your social campaigns, and in many ways we need to make the intangible tangible. And the great thing about Open Amplify is our deep conversation analysis allows us to find these hard indicators of how people are actually engaging with the content. Now for Super Bowl itself, most of the auto advertisers had the same question. Number one, what was the overall impact of the ad on my brand in social channels? And number two, did the creative really strike a chord? This was important because a lot of people spent a lot of money on big Hollywood talent. And to solve this, we zeroed in on three metrics that matter. Firstly, awareness. What was the role of the brand or product in the social conversation? Number two, preference, i.e. people's attitude and sentiment towards the products and brands. And thirdly, intent, that important piece about when people are discussing your products and brands, what are they actually talking about doing? And together, when we map this for a lot of the major auto advertisers into performance metrics, it became very, very interesting way to compare how the different brands performed and indeed to find who was the king of Super Bowl. Now we want to look at some data, so we've picked the Chrysler campaign. It's a great campaign called Halftime in America featuring Clint Eastwood. So I'm going to dive over now into SocialView and take a look at the metrics that we generated. So when you log into SocialView using your username and password, you're basically going to come to this administration screen where any project you have in your account is available. There are two ways to log in to see data. The first is using the summary report, which basically gives you a nice overview of the entire data set. Let's take a look. As you can see, there's two further tabs on the summary report. The first, campaign summary, gives you an overview of the key metrics from sentiment, intent, the topics, loyalty and platform. It's all here. The topic summary tab gives you a view of the topics that are driving the positive and negative conversation. It also has this cool tree map which allows you to interrogate the main topics themselves, and by doing a control select you can actually compare the sentiment of these in a nice easy to use dashboard. So this is a great way to get just a general feel for what the entire data set is like. The other way to get to the data itself is through the View Analysis button. So let's take a look at the underlying templates. So the first place you land when you view analysis is on this topic selection tab. This is where it all begins, because this is how you filter the data to really dig into the underlying conversation. You can see that Open Amplify has automatically extracted all of the main topics from this data set and presents them to you here in this table. For the purposes of this demonstration, we're actually going to zero in on Chrysler. So I'm just going to type in Chrysler, press return. It pulls all of the topics that mention Chrysler. It automatically does this, so there's no need for complex search queries or complex strings. It's all here. So all you simply do is select all. It will then select all of those topics. Once these statistics and pie charts are visible, the data's ready to go. Quick tip for everybody, there's a little status bar in the bottom left corner. Once that is ready, you know the data's loaded. Anyway, let's go and look at the actual metrics that matter themselves. We're going to start with reactions. So the reactions metrics is how we've actually collected the data for the Super Bowl campaigns. So what we do with reactions is we actually use the URLs of the seeded videos as the start point. We upload those into the system and basically we track on and off site engagement to those video assets as they virally move through the social platforms. So if this is the primary YouTube URL here, there's 2,111 reactions. You can see we've actually generated 15,108 total messages against these different what we call seeds. But you can see how it actually cascades by generation. So in the example I'm just loading up on screen here, basically this main YouTube URL, which generated 2,111 reactions, the main reactor to that was a Huffington Post article, and things like this Everyman Auto, which is a blog that's listed 6 reactions. So you can just dig down and down and down, right down to the actual tweets themselves. Gives you a very powerful view of how the viral momentum kind of propagated as it moved through the internet. You can see this will be consistent on all SocialView templates. There's a number of filters, additional filters available to you on the left. Anyway, this is reactions. This is how we collected the data for the Super Bowl campaigns. Now we're going to go and look at the brand metrics themselves. So under the brand metrics tabs, this is where our metrics that matter live. You can see here we've got tabs for awareness, preference and intent. Let's look at awareness first. These are the topics that we loaded up in the topic selection process. They remain consistent through all of these templates. If you want to change it, you go back to topic selection. The awareness tab itself deals with the topical content of the conversation. So here we're extracting all of the main points of conversation. What are people talking about? You can see Clint Eastwood, major topic of conversation. And as we load these up from left to right, this allows you to drill down deeper and deeper into the conversation itself. Now here's a key metric. With the Chrysler data that we've loaded, you can see that 20.55% of the messages contain Chrysler. Unprompted awareness of the brand itself. That's a key metric. And as I said, you can dig deeper and deeper into the conversation to understand what is really driving the conversation in social channels. All the filtering is available to you on the left. So if you wanted to see, for example, just the conversation from Twitter or from blogs, simply click and it will dynamically filter. The messages themselves are available to you in these bottom boxes. Simply load up the messages you want, and at any time on any of these templates, if you click this top right menu, you access different functions like exporting tables and printing to PDF, etc. All useful stuff. Let's look at the preference tab. So the preference tab is our sentiment story, and you can simply dig into the data by activating different segments of these pie charts. So again, it's a dynamic filtering process. You can see that by selecting positive, these are the main topics that are driving the positive conversation. They will change if we select negative. And again, if you want to filter by platform or by date, simply use these sliders and different filter selects to change your data selection. The messages, once again, can be viewed by activating the different message boxes under the tables themselves. But this is the sentiment story, and you can see how the number of messages, again, some of these key metrics are starting to be driven simply by the data that we're selecting. If you want to do multiple selects, simply control click and you can select multiple segments of the pie chart. Now let's go to the final metric that matters tab, the intent tab. So intent is where we really drill into the physical interaction of people with the brands in question. This is where we look at what people are talking about doing, what they're intending to do. So if you select a segment, for example, an action category called purchase, what that does is it drills into people who are talking about buying, not buying, or selling this product. And again, if you select the main topics of conversation relating to those action categories, is presented here on the right hand side. And again, at any time you can download the messages. You can simply hover to see the message. You can right click to export the messages. If you wanted a table of all of the actual usernames of people who are talking about buying your product, it's all here, easy to access. Again, filtering on the left, but these action categories are a really powerful way to understand some key metrics around people's consideration and purchase of your product or brand, something that's traditionally very, very hard to get at. Anyway, this has been a quick flyby showing you how some of the key brand metrics work within SocialView. It's an easy tool to use, obviously all dynamically filtered, and a very powerful way to investigate the social conversation. So you've seen how SocialView can be used to generate those metrics that matter. You can dice and slice the data on demand. Pretty simple, it's all there for you to use. But the power, of course, comes from comparing projects. whether you're comparing campaign to campaign or brand to brand, even industry to industry. This is the essence of benchmarking, of course, knowing how well you did, why, and how you can improve. And simple though it sounds, we find this is largely missing today from social campaign measurement. So how did Chrysler actually do? Well, room for improvement for sure. But just knowing how they stack up really provides critical input for the future campaigns. At Open Amplify, we're making sense of social for some of the biggest brands on the web. So whether you need to measure a social video campaign or understand the engagement through your Facebook page, please get in touch. We'd love to share our experiences and show you how to measure the performance of your social campaigns in HD. Thanks for listening.